You're watching Notepad with me, Ibrahim, Sani. We're talking about digitization and perhaps how we can manage human resources a little bit better. Joining me in the studio is Catherine Lee, the head of Digi-X. Digi-X is, of course, the venture arm of Digi Telco, and we're trying to understand a little bit better about the dichotomy between the two. So, Catherine, let's talk the first question first, which is Digi-X versus Digi. What's the difference?
In the recent years, what we have been a bit more focused on is developing business solutions around HR efficiency for businesses.
Okay. What do you mean by HR efficiency?
So that means if you look at a company today in terms of how they process their paperwork when it comes to HR. So if I give you a very simple example, like if you were to join a company and they were to give you, say, a paper to fill out before you join, and somebody takes the paper from you and goes into the HR system to do the data entry. So what we have essentially created is a link for, say, the employees to be able to receive this link before they join on day one, fill it up, and it automatically goes into the HR system. And for some companies who are still, believe me or not, there are a lot of companies out there still tracking their leaves and expenses on paper or even Excel. And we've basically kind of created an app for them to process all of these things.
Being a Digi venture builder, I would assume you guys would be building ventures, not just about HR, but many other things regarding tech and telco and communications. What's with the HR pitch, I guess, in terms of the altHR app?
Yeah, so I'll tell the backstory so you also kind of get to where we are today. Is that sometime about 6-7 years ago, we decided that we wanted to change the way the employee experience was for Digi. And what we did was we put together a team of people who were passionate about HR and also a team of people who could build the solution together, and they built something up. And after we launched it for internally within Digi, we noticed, at least we started getting a lot more attention or some interest from our business partners and also our vendors to say that, hey, what HR system are you using today? It looks pretty interesting. So we realized that there was a market for it. And what we did was in early of 2019, we decided to rebuild the entire app from ground up to make it scalable for, say, a business of 5 people all the way up to something as large as Digi 1,500 people can use the system to make it as complex or as simple as they want it to be.
Okay, still, my question is why the HR or improving the employee well-being? Why not, I don't know, better tech solutions or any other solutions not involving HR but more on communications?
Because as a company, Digi is rather big on the whole employee experience, and I think from what we have seen is that we have the know-how and we have the capability to build something that is relevant for employees, and we believe in making an impact for other companies, and we always think that happy employees make for a better company.
Okay, let me rephrase my question. Are there any other things that you're building in Digi-X?
Yeah, so Digi-X covers a few other areas. We built it in partnership with other companies, things like fleet management solution, cloud call center solution. So those are things that we are also focused on. Yeah.
So, again, okay, call center I can get it, but fleet management?
Fleet management.
Oh, fleet management, meaning the car solutions or truck. Oh, okay. So I see this as an addendum business towards Digi, and you're trying to build solutions where is it possible that you export these kind of businesses to other enterprises, or do you feel that you can, I don't know, merge this company with another company, something like selling the solutions to other enterprises? Is that it?
Yeah. So the premise of it is, like I said earlier, it's all about driving solutions that ride on connectivity. So we see this as a complementary business to the telco business. So if you look at it, a company can sign up for altHR. They don't necessarily need to be a Digi subscriber. Yeah. So that's how we see it in terms of kind of widening the reach of what we call the consumer or the businesses that we impact.
No, my question is this. Do you feel that you can be a consultant of sorts and now go to market and say, hey, we are Digi-X, we're offering altHR to some other companies. I don't know, Petronas,
yes, that's
Shell,
exactly
whatever.
what we're doing.
Okay, so who are your clients right now?
So our clients basically range from the smaller SMEs who are like 5 to 10. They find us through, say, the digital ads that we run. And then after that, we have some of the bigger agency companies and whatnot. So we're basically hovering around like the 300 to 500 people company.
Oh, that's big.
Yeah.
That's big. So it's not really the S of the SME, more like medium-sized enterprises.
Well, it's a good mix of both right now.
Could you share some case studies on how they have been adopting these kind of solutions and how it has, I guess, seen some sort of I guess, positive growth towards the employee engagement for these kind of companies?
Yeah, so I think, so in terms of case studies, so let's talk about the MCO, right, that we all just went through. So in terms of altHR, I think we've seen a huge increase of it, especially for companies that used to track their leaves or claims expense through Excel or even just someone signing off on paper. So through what we have seen is that when they adopt altHR, everything then becomes digital. When an employee comes on board, they need to say make a leave or claims request, they do it all via the app. And it's basically for the team and also for the HR admin, you no longer need to push paper around. And if you needed to download a report of, leave balances or like how much claims is done for the company for the year, all you need to do is just download the report from the app rather than try to calculate it by yourself.
Automated?
Yes, it's all automated, correct.
Would the solutions be one size fits all, or do you have to customize just a little bit to ensure that the applicability of the SMEs, I guess, custom fit to their requirements and the industry?
Yeah, so what we do is we put in a lot of different configurations. So rather than, how the traditional HR systems would tell you that, oh, if I have to customize this for you, this would cost X amount and whatnot. So what we do is we put in enough variables so that, say, a 5-man company can easily configure it to as simple as possible that, for the company-wide, I want everyone to have 5 days of leave balances or 15 days, right? And then for a larger company that says that, oh, I want, because this person has been with us for 10 years, he gets more days, or this person is of a higher level, they get X amount of days. So that's where we are also able to bring in that level of configuration for them as it increases in complexity.
So when you roll out these kind of solutions to these customers of yours, with that level of, I can see it's not that complex or complicated to configure, but still there is some level of configuration. Is this going to slow down the rollout of adoption for new customers, or is this part and parcel of that onboarding time frame that you guys have already in plan?
Yeah, so it's part and parcel of the onboarding. So for any company who wants to sign up, they can sign up digitally, and they have a 30-day trial period to really test out the system, to really decide if they want to sign up for it eventually. And through this 30-day period, we have almost a suite of references for them to look at. They can either schedule, say, video calls with us for us to be able to educate them on how to use it. Alternatively, if they wanted to just read our FAQs or our video tutorials that are available on the website, they can easily do that as well.
And then, of course, we need to talk about the cost when it comes to these SMEs. Financial and non-financial cost. They are currently doing whatever they're doing right now prior to the adoption of the altHR. What is the differential factor here on adopting your solution? Is it saving more money? Is it saving more time? Is it both? And what will be the learning curve to adopt this, knowing that there's going to be some configurations involved?
Yeah, so I think if you're talking about differentiation versus what they do currently, and also differentiation versus what's available in the market, right? Is that for altHR, we have built it on the premise of 2 aspects. So we have your traditional HR that what I just mentioned, the leave, expense, payroll, time tracking, rostering. And what we also have is what I call the digital enablement and also the engagement portion. So when I talk about that, what altHR brings that others may or may not bring is that, so we have things like a highlights module that tells any employee who has an app, the company can actually communicate, say, company-wide announcements through it. Say, if you want to know your next shuttle service on, say, for large companies like Digi, we put in our shuttle service schedule inside as part of the highlights. And then after that, if you wanted to just check in with your employees, if you have employees who are remotely working in terms of what they've done for the day, or basically anything, any questions and all, you can also still send it via the app. So, and what we have also done is that for SMEs, and we've seen a lot of them using it, is that we have something called a sales kit tool that's inside the altHR as well, that you can put in, say, anything of your company materials in order to sell to customers, and you make all your employees your sales agents.
It's a little bit of SaaS there going on.
Yes.
Okay, we'll go for one short break. When we come back, we'll discuss a little bit more with Digi-X on the altHR solutions. We'll be right back after these messages. Thanks for staying on with me. In the studio is Catherine Lee, the head of Digi-X. We're talking about the altHR solutions that a solution that the Digi-X is bringing. Let's talk a little bit more about how that universe can be expanded, because yes, it's an HR management solution and tool, but you're already imputing, say, sales function inside. What will be other functions that could be included inside to allow them to enjoy a whole host or suite of products and services within this service?
Yeah, so now what's going on, and still at exploratory stage, is that we started building things like a spaces module. So things like about booking rooms, meeting rooms within your company. Whereas if you see a lot of companies doing now is that they have different solutions for different things. You have one that is applicable for you to kind of carry out your day-to-day HR processes. You have one that talks about, you know, just room booking. You have another one that's basically your sales channel. So we're looking at combining all of that together. So up to now, we have more than 20 modules, of which 10 of them are probably core HR, and the rest we are even experimenting with things like altHR store. That means you can go in there, you can pay your bills, and we have also allowed something called a gifting module. That means that, say, if you have a team of people and they've done a good job, you wanted to send them gifts, you can just purchase, say, a Baskin-Robbins voucher on the app and then have it digitally delivered to them via email.
Taking the conversation away from the solutions that you are providing and moving into internal conversation of DG, how's DG per se, the MNO, treating Digi-X? Is it a source of other revenue? Is it a key element to grow revenue? What's the relationship between Digi-X and DG right now?
So Digi-X is technically, we are part of Digi Telecommunications. We are essentially a department within Digi. And in terms of the relationship is that, yes, we have, at least part of my team focuses on driving this, what we call new revenue. But the other half, because we have the capability in-house of product managers and engineers to develop solutions. So there are some times when the core telco business needs us to do, say, integration with partners and whatnot. My team does step in to also see through that entire process.
So you would be seen as a revenue center, not a cost center?
Yes, we are a cost center by itself.
You're a cost center?
Costs and revenue center together. Yeah.
No, I was thinking about the same thing, right? Yeah. So what does this mean? Does this mean that you guys need a lot of capital injection? Is it coming from the mother company, or can you try to see if you can get sources of investment from other places as well? Because to find the solutions, I'm pretty sure it's not cheap, right?
Yeah, so what we do is, I think we've kind of ventured out over the last couple of years to try to figure out what model works for us. And what we've seen is that us really thinking up and hiring the right people to build it is probably the best thing that works for us. So essentially, everyone within Digi-X, basically the cost of it is really essentially just the people cost. Yeah, I think less so of investments in huge infrastructures. We're not there.
Okay, and of course, when we talk about this as well, the other alternative is to just buy the solutions out there in the market, and that would be pricey, of course, but at the same time, it doesn't involve headcount.
Yes.
So what was that part of the consideration moving forward?
Yeah, I think for us, it's also about the longevity of the product, and I think that we have also seen in cases where we partner, and like exactly what you said, right? That is it easier to just go out and buy a solution and then kind of repackage it and sell? I think in those cases where we see a bit of, at least where it's lacking versus what we're doing for altHR, is that when you don't build the product yourself, you have a bit less influence on how the product roadmap would be. Because then it becomes a function of, say, revenue versus how much revenue can you drive for that partner versus someone else who's also doing the same model with them. Yeah. So which is why we landed on where we are today, that the focus would be on what we can build and influence the roadmap.
And what about the relationship with Telenor then? Do you get some sort of expertise or some sort of learnings from them?
No, so everything is internal within DG and Digi-X itself.
Oh, okay. Okay, let's talk about how you guys can move forward from this. You were talking about fleet management, of course, altHR, and control room solutions.
More like call center.
Call center, yeah. So what will be some of the universes that you're trying to build here when it comes to the solutions coming up from Digi-X in the upcoming, I guess, near term to mid term?
So I think what we have seen is the HR proposition will be here to stay, because we obviously see an increase in interest for everyone who's starting to use it, and especially with all companies who are just starting out. There's a new company starting up every day, so there's always a market for that. In terms of what's next for us is that we are always exploring, well, the mandate for Digi-X is about building things that would help aid the company through its efficiency. That means if there's any processes that needs to be, say, fixed, or anything that needs to be simplified, then that's where we want to be. So especially for altHR, what
you
we
mean
are
for
also
internal
not just internal, more like external productivity as well. So let's say if there are some things where a customer comes to us, altHR, right? So what we do there is we have something called a customer council for altHR, where we constantly engage selected customers based on their profiles and say that, hey, if you're using altHR now, is there anything outside the realm of HR that you feel you are facing issues with? That let's talk about it, and maybe we can build something for you there.
What has been some of the things that you've heard?
So I think what we are now, at least the team is working on, is something called, say, a workflow management.
Are you allowed to talk about these things, like the things?
Well, because these are things that are already, well, will be coming up in the next couple of weeks already.
Okay, good. All right, let's talk about this. Sorry. Now that, you know, okay, what was the thing that you...
Yeah, so things like workflow management.
Workflow management.
Yeah, so
like project management?
Like, well, more like approval management. Like, you know, people say that, oh, I don't want to do things via email anymore. Do you think that these are things that...
Yeah, but people have Slacks and Teams now, so I don't understand how.
As in, like, because they want it documented.
Yeah, Teams. No.
As in Teams, as in
Microsoft Teams.
Oh, Microsoft Teams to just submit a form and,
yeah.
and have it approved.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not
DocuSign.
Not everyone would say have the investment to spend on it.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's a bit more of that.
Okay.
You pay like a small amount for altHR, and you basically get everything. Together.
All right, including this workflow management. Other stuff that has been discussed?
Well, there are other things that are being discussed is more like improvements to what we existingly already have. So let's say, I think for one key example would be, say, a time tracking module and row string module that we created within altHR. This one was the premise of solving for our entire DG retail store solution, because if you speak to any retail store out there, they'll tell you that there is no one perfect solution that fits whatever business needs they want. So what we did for that is that we worked very closely with our retail team to say that, okay, what are you using right now? What do you think the gaps are? And then we will try to close the gap in terms of what they really need versus all the solutions out there.
Okay, we'll go for one more short break before I talk about culture inside Digi and, of course, Digi-X. We'll be right back after these messages. Thanks for staying on with me. I have with me Catherine Lee, head of Digi-X. Catherine, let's talk a little bit more about how do you not stray away from your mandate and get sucked into this rabbit hole of being a troubleshooter for companies that you work for and work with. How do you ensure that the solutioning that you provide to the market and for internal stakeholders as well continues to stay on track of being the company that is a venture builder, a company that is building solutions and not, like I said, troubleshooting people?
Yeah, so what we do is, you're right to say that we get requests every single day, right? Every day my team is constantly bombarded with requests to say that, hey, can you build this, can you build that? And how we usually prioritize is that we have honest conversations about, okay, if I build this for company A, or even for DG itself, right? Can this even be reused by someone else? And if we find enough use cases, and then we say, okay, let's go ahead and build it. Or else, I think we sometimes even tell our own company or even the rest of the companies to say that, I'm sorry, we just can't build this because we don't see any use cases. Yeah, so that's in terms of how we prioritize what we need to do.
How often does that happen, this conversation?
This conversation happens pretty often. I would say every other week or so, we will definitely get a new request because, like I said, we have a constant interest every day. And obviously, what we also try to tell the companies who are with us is that we may not necessarily be able to fulfill all your needs, especially if you want such custom requests. So what we do for altHR as well, on top of that 30-day thing, there are some modules within altHR that are still growing, and we will tell companies that before you start using it, let's do an evaluation together. If this suits your needs, take it. If you think you can live with the gaps, then you can sign up for it. But if you think that there are some things that you can't live without and you feel that you refuse to change your internal processes, even though it's more complex than what we are recommending, then you don't have to sign up for it.
Have you ever had to say no to Digi itself?
A lot of times. Yes.
Do you get the rap for it? Or?
Well, I think that Digi as a whole is pretty forward-thinking, so they understand. So when we tell them that, hey, we aren't building this because it just doesn't seem right, but let's come together, let's meet in the middle to come to a solution that we can both agree on, something that my team is willing to build for the larger market, and in turn would really change the way Digi thinks, right? Because if you think about it, that was the purpose of why we created altHR to start with, that we wanted to change the employee experience, not just the employees like you and I, but also the HR operations or the team actually managing the system. That you don't want them to be just doing the same thing day in, day out without figuring out a better way to do things.
Being the head of Digi-X, you're not just thinking about a product roadmap, you're thinking about the company's roadmap as well. Perhaps even strategically in the long term even, not just in the short and medium term. Because of this, what would be some of the ideas that you can share with us on how you want to bring Digi-X to the future in the next, say, 3 to 5 years from now?
Well, I think some things that I always tell my team is that because of the fast-moving world that we're in, I think we don't exactly see that far ahead. I think sometimes our horizon is probably about 1-2 years ahead, about keeping the focus and saying that if we really believe that this HR app or even any other solutions that we're building is the way to go, then we need to figure out in a way how to tag everything else on top of it. Yeah.
So no plans for the future?
In terms of, well, immediate plans for the future would be just to focus on this for now first.
All right,
yeah.
Great. Final word before we conclude this conversation?
Well, I think when it comes to just generally for SMEs and digitalization, when it comes to HR, I think it's going to be a bit tough at the start, as we've seen with a lot of companies out there since we started this journey. But I think if they are able to see it through, walk the talk as leaders, make time for it, allow your employees to explore and try to learn anything new that you implement, it will pay off.
Before we end this interview, I just want to end that whole comment on not many people, not many C-suite or business leaders actually understand the pain of the middle managers have to go through, unless they are business owners themselves and they want to do it themselves, then they understand the pain. Is it easy or difficult to communicate to the people who are running the show but not necessarily doing the real hardcore work or the grind to actually appreciate the kind of pain that people go through, especially the day-to-day stuff?
Yeah, so I think that's exactly what is happening right now, right? So we've actually seen companies, and these are real stories, right? Companies come to us, they sign up for altHR, and then 3 to 4 months later, they tell us that, oh, I'm sorry, there's no one in my team who can implement it because no one has the time. And then we tell them that, but these are things that if you sign up for it, you have to make the time. And sometimes it's as good as if you think that as leaders that you feel you just want to sign up for it, then I would say you shouldn't, because then you're just putting undue pressure on your middle managers to push something through that the C-suites don't even care about.
Again, does this conversation happen often with some of the businesses that you work with?
Well, I would say that
a minority?
And when we tell them actual stories about this, like how people are actually signing up and then not utilizing what they've signed up for, and we contact them every other week to say that, are you using, are you not? Because then we will tell you that if you need help with training, we are there to help you as well. Yeah.
So the constant engagement is there, but sometimes companies just refuse to change.
Yeah.
As per many of us. All right, thank you very much, Catherine Lee, the head of Digi-X, for joining us in this interview. Do check out the altHR solution. I think, where do people check that out?
On the website, althr.my.
Fantastic. Okay, if you missed out any part of this interview, just head on to AstroAwani.com, look for Notepad. You can also look for Digi or Digi-X on our social sites. Until then, thanks very much for watching and goodbye.